accelerate them a little bit further over the course of the AD carry, and hopefully manage to pick somebody off. And already starting off with the longsword in the inventory as well, it's just rushing towards that first item as fast as possible, not feeling like they're going to need the all-in health that the Doran's Blade gives you.
So, as we're in for our game of the day, our breath will be held with even more intensity than in the previous ones. If there's one game that has split us casters, it is definitely this one, with Veteran actually predicting that Vanir wins this. How much of this is forgetting to lock in your predictions, and how much of this is just, actual choice? We will never know, I guess, but he has predicted it. Regardless,
a little bit of exposing.
I am excited.
It is what it is.
No, I mean, in the case that Verdant win this game, he's then lucky that I exposed the fact that it might have been a mistake, because then,
True.
He was originally right if he wanted to predict Verdant. I will have done him dirty, though, in the case that Vanir win, and then I'll simply go back, erase that I ever said this, and no one will ever know. It's like, I don't know the movie, but they have this thing where they can erase people's minds. I'll find that thingy, and then I'll do the thing that thingy does, and then I will remove people's minds. Men in Black, thank you, lovely producer, as I finally found out what that movie is called. I'm bad at movie references. We can talk football instead.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I've not seen it, but that feels like a popular enough film that you should be able to know that you're referencing it. I'm just gonna say that. Now, I want to draw our attention to this mid lane, as the camera's already over here, but Luca's actually opted for the Ghost this game. On the Galio, typically you see the Teleport and then Spellbook to other spells if you're, really feeling it. But this is Phase Rush plus Ghost on Luca. This is going to be a speedy gargoyle trying to navigate the team fights, and I think this is actually going to be really useful in the later stages of the game. Gives him more agency to get into this Cassiopeia Zeri backline and cause chaos for them. Because if they're getting taunted, Zeri doesn't have an auto attack in the traditional sense. Her damage comes from her Q. So if she gets taunted, she's stood dealing 20 damage every 1/8 of a second. And Cassiopeia, again, the same. Doesn't really have the consistent DPS from an auto attack. Taunt is a very useful tool versus these two champions.
And as we have moved in between the first part of the jungle being cleared, Niels says, I think you'll start a bot side. I'm just going to make sure that your top side will be taken, and if it hasn't, I'll know when you start taking it. So the wall gets placed down, Texa now making his way in towards that bot side of the map. As we will now see Luxy start making his way weirdly towards his blue buff. Okay, he just walks the other way around. He has been spotted. I thought he was going to do some weird stuff. I take that all back. He's not running towards the mid lane, as an explosive trade does happen here. Twin Fangs being traded, but nice trade from Luca there, taking 60% pretty much of Erol's HP.
Yeah, and this is the power of the early game Galio. Base stats tend to carry you through for the most part. I also want to, again, draw our attention to the item builds. Luca opted into this Doran's Shield early on. It's a very laning-centric item, whereas Erol has opted into the Tear of the Goddess, so literally 0 combat stats for the laning phase. But he's going to be stacking up that tier a little bit faster, likely going to be working towards the Rod of Ages as well. The super scaling mid lane build is back in Season 13. Goes back to base, picks up a D-ring, so has now a little bit more power to try and duel out with Luca. But you did get to see in that small trade, it's actually very difficult. If Phase Rush gets procced, Luca can just dodge Noxious Blast with that movement speed or run away from the Twin Fangs, and there's not a lot that Erol can do.
What I think is important to remember, though, at this point in the game is what we talked about in draft. This is a early game oriented Vanir, way stronger in that early game, wants to accelerate the Lucian. So we will be keeping our eyes, especially on bot lane and Pluxy in particular. Where will he go? Where will he use his early game pressure to try and get something done? Because they need to. If this goes 30 minutes without any kills, it's certainly Verdant who will win. And talking about kills, very aggressive trades in mid before, now in top lane as well. A solo bolo is not out of the question.
Yeah, it's important to set our expectations here. I do think that there's a bit of a misconception around how fast you need to snowball as an early game composition. I'd like to give them, till sort of 15, 20 minutes, honestly. If they're at an even pace, that is, that they should be good to go. Get a nice little trade here in the mid lane.
Woohoo! That is Erol, as I know him. On his one trick, he finds the solo bolo first blood. And that's why you always get this man's Cassiopeia.
Just disrespecting on the Galio here, has flash ready, but doesn't think that the damage is there. Erol, though, one trick Cassiopeia be dod. He knows his damage. He's going to find the 1v1 if you give it to them. No mana on the Galio, staying around in the laning phase and gets rightfully punished.
that was really beautiful. That hit right home in my Danish heart. That, you know, having seen this guy grown up in our own national leagues, moving on to NLC Division 2, he has taken all the steps through the NLC ecosystem, even as the ecosystem was changing around him. Getting to see him in NLC Division 1, having already picked up 2 wins, getting a solo bowler here as well. It's absolutely phenomenal to see for the Danish talent development.
And in case movement speed wasn't clearly enough going to be an important statistic, Luca rushes those tier 2 lucidity boots. So making roams happen now also going to be a lot easier. Your typical play pattern for a Galio is push and roam. You can already see that that is slightly coming to fruition. The second he leaves laning phase up toward that top side, spam pings into the top lane for Nila. Get out of there, buddy. There's a potential Galio about to drop in on your head. And when you've got the ulti there ready to go, you never want to really be messing around with a Galio out on the map.
Something that you definitely need to be aware of, as there's also an objective on the map, and with Ploxy being on the top side, it is very understandable. It's actually just feel like he should go for this because it is as free as it gets. Regardless though, he hasn't started up yet. Will start up clearing out the vision as Ploxy still on that top side and takes her instead. Might just look to get the recall off. Neither of the junglers have hit level 6, and that's really a power spike, you know, when ganks just become that bit easier to pull off.
I mean, mid is in a really rough spot right now for Vanir. Errol is holding the wave in such a position that he could go and help his jungler if needed, but that also is forcing Luca to use spells to CS. Ploxy's been spotted, but is going to be able to just clone over the wall, make sure that he's not getting caught out by that cease and desist. And that kind of broke the freeze in mid lane. Just that little bit of pressure from Ploxy gives a little bit more resource back to Luca, who, like I say, was in a really rough position, but now that that lane has been pushed out a little bit more, shouldn't be feeling too bad and may start to be able to collect a few more minions again.
Let's just take a look at the bot lane now. What has happened? Has that developed any lead or anything in that regard down there? In terms of the level, it is still 5v5. And I can't see the CS. Can you tell me, is there a CS lead? I have a bar blocking it and I can't get it to go away as I started talking.
The same bar, don't worry. Yeah, there's a one wave lead at the minute.
Thank you.
One wave lead that's in favour of Kevo. But, I mean, that's honestly nothing to really write home about. It's going to get neutralised and ping-pong back and forth every now and then. But they are having fairly decent trades as well down on this bot side. The power of First Strike, of course, going to be generating a little bit of gold also. So all told, this bot lane, nothing really to write home about. The only real advantage, Duckling, is just that first blood. There's a 500 gold gap between the two teams. 400 gold is the exact value of a first blood. So I think that thus far, with a slow-paced game, it's Errol making the difference. And for the rest of Verdant, they're quite happy to just sit back. That, you know, time bomb for Vanir slowly getting closer and closer to wrapping itself up. But this is something that you'll just see always. We've seen it twice already today. Herald spawns and the supports start to roam. We move up toward this top side with our junglers at level 6. And we could very well see a fight up here because it's not just the supports for Verdant. Kevo is here also. Not yet hit level 6. Might look for it on this mid wave to see if they can take a fight here because they don't want to let this Herald go down.
So, I should say, a fight, very likely. I'm looking at the ultimates. Everything is up for everyone. Same goes for someone else, except for Erol, who doesn't have the flash. And it's not him that's caught out, though. It's Texa. And he gets taken down instantly. Culling and needlework has been called as Needle on the backline tries to find something, but instantly gets taken down to 20% as Luca, even through the flash, connects on Kevo and will take him down. Erol running
Double
on his one
taunt.
trick. He can't get out. And Needle, the last man standing. And not last man to fall as he barely makes it out. 4 kills for Vanir.
Perfect for Vanir. This is exactly what we were talking about. The early game needs to be won by them. The first chance that they get to make a big map move, they do so. Pull all 5 members up to the top side. They match Verdant's AD carry roam with Chrisberg, and they secure themselves 4 kills in the top side. Their champions early on are better, Duckling. We said this for a reason. We made the expectation that they needed to find early leads because their champions were better, and they've shown it right there. Early base damages and the nice layering of CC between Ploxy and Luca, able to take down these 2 hyper carries who don't have the items yet. Yes, Errol has that solo kill in the mid lane, but that's not taking him suddenly to 4 items on the Casio. It's just got him faster towards a catalyst, which again, as a reminder, is only health and mana, not damage.
It is such a important fight there for Vanir to turn the goal lead back in their favor. Really, really crucial, as there's still a long time to go before Verdant really come online. As Tax, yeah, he can do some early game damage, but it's not anything to really write home about at this point. Drake, though, has been up for a while, and Verdant will see this chance to take it for free.
Not going to be contested. Some topside camps that could be traded out onto Taxa, but that doesn't look like it's going to be the case. The real recipient of all the gold in that fight was Lingui. Goes back to base, picks himself up the components of a Riftmaker, and is going to be in a very good position to control fights in the late game stage. That sort of one avenue of hope, if we do end up getting to that 40-minute marker, is that Lingui will be able to deal with Kevo and Earl quite sufficiently. Obviously not as easy as just, clicking and hoping. It's going to be a little bit more mechanically intensive versus Akasio and Azeri than potentially other less mobile types of champions in those respective roles. But so far, it's been a good start for Vanir. Like I said, we're not expecting it to be, all guns blazing for the first 5 minutes. They bided their time, they found a window where they could get a lead, and they've done exactly that.
And that's all they need for now, right? The question is, when can they build on it? Regardless, though, want to zoom out, check the game state, because I'm realizing Chrisberg, he has hit his first item, Spike. And it's really, really strong for him, allowing him to almost one-shot someone if the Gale Force connects alongside the slowest Pluxy. Could be looking for something, doesn't know they are there, though. When he finds Erol, might find himself intrigued in the opportunity of going forward. And otherwise, though, he decides against it, as maybe fearing someone is around. But the tension is definitely rising in this game. I think that is fair to say, as Taxa hasn't really been able to find anything in this early game.
Yeah, the issue, right, for Vanir is that they always have to keep on winning. The second that they start losing this, it becomes so much harder to come back.
Let's see if they can do it in this fight, as someone called Pluxy instantly gets popped. Now Luca running away. He doesn't want any part in this. The ghost is popped, and he just waddles away. Waddle, waddle, waddle. Till the very next day as he gets out alive. That was very weird.
Yeah, I mean, he gets out to safety, but burns Ghost, burns ulti, and gets nothing for it, nearly.
Could be in trouble, doesn't have any magic uses to deal with the Linguist Needlework as it misses completely. Nice footwork there as the Ghost was forced.
Yeah, just a good sidestep for Nilla there. Tries to go one way and throws himself back the other as Lingui launches back that Needlework 3. Nevertheless, a one-out fight on the bot side for Verdant. A bit of a thrown-away life, unfortunately, by Plox. He steps too far forward, overestimates the power that the Galio is going to provide him, and underestimates, really, the amount of brute damage that Taxa and Kevo had in tandem with one another. So, a good little bit of recompense there. Kevo finds himself a kill on the enemy jungle, and that's going to help him get to this mythic item and try and, stave off the difference that we're already seeing between these two ADCs, because it is at the minute full Gale Force versus, yes, the tier 2 boots, but a Vamp Scepter and not even a Noon Quiver yet, just those components. Looks like Vanir have been able to force Kevo into this laning phase for so long. There's just been no good base timing. And now taking the first brick down there as well. Vanir are doing a great job through the early stages in these side lanes.
A lot of gold into Chrisberg's pocket is something he can be very happy about, as All Out gets popped up here in the top lane. Nila has good damage now, but not many resistances to be proud of. So the fight ends pretty much even without anyone going down. Both have just used TP back as well. That Riftmaker already completed on the top side. You can definitely see the first items coming through just that bit earlier on the side of Vanir on average.
Yeah, and with that Riftmaker being finished for the Gwen, obviously that sustain in the laning phase is going to be, helpful tenfold, really. With both of those TPs being down, it's not going to be as easy for the Cassante to get his HP back. Obviously, there's Omnivamp in the ulti, but now that's been burned, it doesn't become as straightforward, and Lingui's Needlework is going to be back up and available very soon. So there's now a chance for that top side to get a little bit more volatile. The second I say that, though, we recognise Vanir have already made a lane swap happen. They want to get as many plates, as much gold onto Chrisberg as possible. You can already see he's ahead by 1,000 in that bot lane. The top side matchup for Lingui obviously up by 1,200, so a really good advantage going their way in both of those side lanes to begin with. But if they can get that turret down for Chrisberg as well, it just hammers home the emphasis that they've got on accelerating this Lucian's lead.
And talking about Chrisberg, obviously he will have to survive some stuff being thrown at him this game, as he is the main carry. Lingui obviously able to do a lot of damage as well. I don't want to underestimate that, but Someone who's definitely looking to take Chrisberg down is Texa, his former teammate on Astralis talent all throughout 2022. Texa will be very important to keep our eyes on as he looks to lock down Chrisberg with Cease and Desist, Wallbreaker, and whatever else he has got in the vault.
And I like this as well for Vanir, right? You've pushed in that bot wave, and that's in now a really difficult position for Lingui to go and farm without being collapsed on too heavily. So instead, pull him up to the mid lane, get more gold onto your Gwen. If you're trying to, vie for gold, I think that giving Gwen money over Galio is the way to go. It's a trade of neutral objectives in the meantime as Verdant take themselves Drake number 2, which is pushing them to an even stronger late game scenario where they're going to have now Soul at their back in conjunction with the Zeri and the Cassiopeia. Yes, it's only a Chemtech Soul. It is probably the Soul that has seemed the least overwhelming in terms of their power. But a soul is a soul at the end of the day, Duckling, and if you do get it early enough, it opens the world up where you can get an Elder Dragon as well.
It does open that world up, as it seems to be a trade in that sense, as the Herald gets the charge and Chrisberg gets the kill. A crucial one. Just more gold into this man's pocket, who's already 2,000 gold ahead of his counterpart.
Yeah, Lucian hurts, folks. We've got that serrated Dirk finished as well for Chrisberg, so if there's champions that don't have armor, we are really stinging with these auto attacks. So a good extra pickup for Vanir. Capitalizing on the overextension of Taxa, tries to go forward with that Vault Breaker and is overzealous in that venture. I will say though, I have to keep pointing this out, that the late game scaling for Verdant is in their favor. They are down 4,500 gold, but I don't think too much of that is localized in the mid lane. I think Errol actually fairly far ahead of his counterpart. If we take a look, 900 gold, has a level lead as well, that 30 CS deficit. Got that solo kill early doors and is really going to have to do some wonders through this mid game to keep his team relevant if Vanir continue to try to push for fights.
Let's see how much damage Chrisberg does. It could almost take down Kevo. Peria popped alongside the Immortal Shield Bow to keep him alive. That is so much damage, and they can just continue hammering away at these turrets. And that's when I ask you the all-important question now, Ruben. At what point do we say Verdant have outscaled? How many items do they need in that back pocket?
The thing is, scaling is so relative to the state of this game, and by that I mean, if you typically you see, okay, Zeri is 3 items, she is strong now. But judging the pace of this game, by the time Keva reaches 3 items, Chrisberg is going to be 5. And yes, the Zeri is going to be strong, but the Lucian's going to be full build. So it doesn't matter. It really comes down to when those items are either at parity and we're later on into the game, or if Verdant just end up getting more items, and that's not looking like it's going to be the case. For now, Vanir have done a great job at setting up their mid lane so that they can push forward, try and take some fights. Clyde and Kevo obviously burning those defensive summoner spells off the last wave in the mid lane makes it very difficult for them to step up. It means that they now have to call Taxa and Errol in just to clear out a mid wave where 2 people of Vanir are accomplishing the same job.
Regardless though, I think there's one thing we can conclude from these first 90 minutes of gameplay is that Vanir have been able to get out, they've been able to succeed to some degree. The question just is now, can they keep it up, especially as things like the Baron, like these soul points start spawning and are more reason to fight, more chances they can corral Verdant into a pit and then try and grow their lead that way.
Tier 1 falling in the mid lane is certainly going to give them great access to those leads as well. Opens up the top side of the map quite significantly and the bot side jungle as well. Just means that when you're navigating your way between the lanes, you don't have to be fearful for the bastion of damage that is going to be coming out of a mid tier 1 turret. Gives you a good little standpoint to be able to work from if you do have it up. Obviously now that Verdant don't, opens up Vanir to be able to navigate the enemy jungle a little more freely.
20-minute mark. Just 15 seconds away. And this is something we talked about, right? If we didn't go into the full split push, I would like to look at the bot lane because I was excited to see if Chrisberg was going to be the main carry. Like he has always really been when he's been playing in the NLC, the big hyper carry that you could always rely on. And they are definitely putting him in that situation. This has not been the Verdant split push story spreading out the map. This has been the Vanir Chrisberg show. They have taken over Verdant though. They do want to have something to say about it, as Linky has been forced to pop the Ghost. 3v1 as we speak, make it a 4v1, as the gold mine needs to be donated over to Kevo. Instead, the shutdown falls into the pocket of Nile, who will be happy to take that and build up those resistances.
It's a great pick by Verdant. They only have to burn all out. They're not really losing anything on the map either. They caught Lingui a little bit overextended. The rest of the team weren't ready to make a play. Now they're getting the wave pushed in the mid lane, but it's within just enough time that Verdant are probably going to be able to defend this. If they are sort of 10-20 seconds later on that play by Verdant, or Lingui can wait 10-20 seconds longer, Vanir probably gets something to trade back. That's not the case, and instead it's just a nice little injection of gold into Nille and makes that side lane a bit more bearable for the Cassante.
Definitely a very strong point for him, as the second item has been reached. Force of nature, a lot of magic resistors, a lot of damage still exists on Crisper. Colin Cole unable to find his love, though he has found it in his duo lane touch. Third place in the Norwegian Love Island, had to get out there somewhere, as the Drake now will be taken by Vanir. Baron on the cards though. Verdant happy to trade it for priority and vision around that crucial objective.
Yeah, we didn't see on screen, but Nila actually teleported up to that top tier 1 turret. Did manage to take that one down as a trade for the dragon. So again, conscious choices here by Verdant to recognize that they're slowing down their scaling and not getting that soul as early as possible, but instead getting the gold in their back pockets in a roundabout way, right? It's about 50 gold to everybody on the map, and then obviously the local gold for Nila as well. Not necessarily the worst place to be putting gold. A front line such as a Cassante is definitely going to be difficult for a Lucian to cut through once some armor gets built up. Yes, there's going to be a little bit in the Frostfire, but by and large, going for that Force of Nature second means that this Lucian is still going to be dealing a fair quantity of damage when he's got already sort of 2 and 2 halves in terms of those items built up.
22 minutes, and as you're saying, look at the items. Second item starting to come in for many members. Crisberg was slowly getting closer to the third item as well. It's about waiting to see when that Baron will be started up, because it feels like it's Vanir, who needs to be the one to pull the trigger, who needs to be the one on the proactive play. And as I say that, they started up, no vision inside the pit. Oh, that's Blue Trinket. I don't think it's solid.
Should have seen over, but I mean, either way, they know that it's going on because of that scuttle, I guess. Teleport called. Earl forced out and is now, with the team. And I think that's all that Vanir were playing for. They just wanted to make sure that Earl couldn't be that potent side lane menace and continually chase them down if they were looking for something up on this top side. But once again, want to reset what we're expecting from this. Vanir have done the job that they needed to in the early game. They've established that lead. And now we've reached that 20-25 minute marker where I said they needed to have an advantage. They've then extended how long they can play this game with this advantage. They're now in a position where they can look for the likes of a Baron, the likes of a fight around a dragon, with the confidence that they should be ahead enough in those items to take a fight. 2 items on a Gwen is going to absolutely murder Cassiopeia plus Zeri, who's got that Runans completed right now, and up against a triple melee composition, it's a really good item. The question is whether or not Kevo can stay alive long enough to dish out any damage at all.
Baron might already be started. At the very least, Vision is getting into the favor of Vanir, as it is Crisberg who now moves towards the top lane instead of starting it up. 3 items now on him. Infinity Edge. That is so much damage in his back pocket. It is him who we will be keeping our eyes on alongside Lingui as they now start up this Baron. Verdant, they know it.
Such a good timing as well, right? Vanir recognised we have 3 items on our AD carry. We have to fight now. Crisberg sold the serrated Dirk to make this happen. Hasn't finished tier 2 boots. This is the fastest 3 item spike you'll see for an AD carry. Verdant, they want the fight, but they need to stop Vanir on the Baron first of all. Nilla is here. He's got Ghost ready, all out as well.
Taxa made 3 steals against Natives when they played against them last Wednesday. He needs to pull one out here as well. 2.8 on the Baron, but that's not what matters right now. He needs to get out of there. He could be bursted down as Crisberg, forced to cleanse, forced to flash, and Taxa needs to get back in, and he does it again. 4 steals in 1 week. Are you kidding me?
Taxa cannot be allowed anywhere near these objective pits. This is turning the game entirely. Not just because Verdant now have this Baron to potentially reclaim some gold on the map, but Vanir's whole way to close out the game is just gone. Their wave clear from Verdant is just too strong. Taxa here, he's 200 HP, knows he has to go in anyway. Ulties onto Luca to get back into the pit. Dies, does not care.
I cannot believe it. I thought water could only turn into wine so many times, but Taxa must be drunk of all the wine he's got, because he's just continuing to do it time and time and time and time again. 4 steals in 2 games. I simply cannot believe it. And this guy behind the scenes as well. He's what the team needs. He's always there, willing to take that extra bit of responsibility. And in this game as well, he takes the responsibility, he takes the 50-50, and he's confident enough to win it.
And to reiterate quite how scary this now becomes for Vanir, all of that work that they've done for the last 25 minutes is undone in a single smite. Now they're the ones on the front foot using Baron to push their advantage. They're closing up that gold gap. The lead that the Lucian had, it still exists, and it is a lot more difficult to play off of, but they still have this window. It is now obviously a lot more difficult, and Verdant are right back in this game. Are they in a position where a 5v5 suddenly becomes winning? Not quite yet. There are still item leads in favour of Vanir. If we look at them bot lane specifically, you can see it, and they're looking for more now. Nilla gets chunked out a little bit, but this is that power of Yuumi. Reason why this champion was so highly priced throughout the whole of 2022. Pretty obnoxious to try and play against. You can't go for these short chip damages. You've got to go for the whole hog, and unfortunately, Vanir, they don't get that, but they do get the Drake instead. Looks like Verdant are trying to play off of the fact they've got a Baron to secure some turrets and a bit more gold in exchange for this Drake.
Yeah, given that obviously taking 2 early Drakes allow you to do this without losing a soul, but that does mean this could have been a now Verdant soul, but they have said, no, we don't want that. We would rather try and get more gold in our pockets, as you say. And while it is worth noting that this gets Verdant back into the game, and as you say, kind of destroys a bit of what Vanir has been working so hard towards, it's not fully evened out. There's still 2.8k gold difference. When you look at the AD carry, it is still 3 items to now 2.5 instead of just 2 items on Kevo. But they still have leads on where Vanir really need these leads. So Vanir, not out of it, as you also said, but the game just becomes so much harder, right?
And in the aftermath of all of this, we get to see the dust settle and see how the teams are feeling, who's comfortable taking control. It is still Vanir. They're the ones pushing vision lines, looking to take advantages in the enemy jungle and make plays proactively on the map. This top tier 2 going to be a perfect example of that they have the comfort to move into the top side jungle, set up enough vision so that they are comfortable taking this objective. Taxa stepping forward there, might have been looking for a fight, recognises and thinks better of it. But it's all been a trade. Nilla on the bot side of as this Cassante gets a turret back for himself. Obviously a tier 2 for a tier 1 in a side lane. That is a positive trade for Vanir just in terms of raw gold. But any little chip extra gold that you can get onto Nilla, they're going to be quite happy with that one. Now working towards what I believe is that Sunfire. Going to be a lot more stayable in the front line when looking at Chrisberg in particular.
Important to say, Kevo reached that 3 item spike now. Chrisberg still half an item ahead, but that's a very strong point for this area. That was a point where the curve, as you mentioned yourself, was moving towards the fact that Chrisberg would have 5 items by the time Kevo would have 3, and now that has changed. Thanks to the Baron steal, thanks to the gold the Baron injection gives into Verdant's lineup. And that's just what's so crucial, right? Because Chrisberg will be that much stronger now. Did he have that 1.5, 1 extra item here to just simply out-damage Kevo, but now it's way more of an even fight.
Yes, vastly. The difference between the 3.5 and 2.5 discrepancy we had. Okay, fight.
Oh, he just picks out Lingui, and that just means now there's only really one carry they could rely on the side of Vanir. It's Chrisberg. And he can't do that much damage against such a massive front line. And Taxa, he flashes forward, no cease and desist. But Verdant will not give up the chase regardless. Kevo dashing over the wall to find the counterpart, but unable to take him down as Touch will fall. The W barely misses, and Taxa looks his brother dead in the eyes, continues to run him down. Will not let his former teammate go, but will be forced to as Pluxy will keep his AD carry safe.
And just like that, Duckling, all of that hard work from the early stages, you can feel it crumbling down. 6-6 may well be the kill score, but it feels a lot more Verdant-sided right now. Lingui just gets pulled back into the squad, and ripped to shreds. Not even a chance to become immune to the damage from Errol or Kevo. A really good pick by Nille to start all of that off, and then chased down by Verdant in absolutely meticulous fashion. They get themselves 3 kills. Yes, they lose their bot tier 2, but they claim a bot tier 2 in response, and they get all of the shutdowns as well. Zeri picking up a kill there also. You can see Kevo now, 550 gold shutdown. The game knows that this Zeri is strong. Vanir, they need to recognize it and respect it as well.
We see Texan now go forward with the help of Clyde. He does not commit further forward as he instead takes a more cursed route around to secure that scuttle. What is the move now for Vanir? Because before they just used their strong power to try and push their lead forward. How do they now try and deal with this? Do they do a Tex and just try and steal the Baron away?
I mean, that's one part. The other part is Lingui. Lingui has got smite, or has got TP. He's also 3 items, so could be a threat. He's got a good flank too.
Yeah, he has got a good flank, but he has been knocked up by the cease and desist, and they're in the zone as Erol has taken down Touch on the other side. Very good needlework at Colin, gets them low, but the damage just not quite there for Vanir. They're just needing that bit of extra damage to take anyone down, really, as everyone on Verdant survives, and they will turn their attention back on the Baron.
Yep, 3 kills for them. Luca stands strong, but I don't think he's going to be able to interrupt this Baron going down. Kevo is dishing out the DPS. Errol is absolutely formidable on this Cassiopeia. Picks up the Medjais earlier on, now up to 9 stacks for that one. They may well have to forfeit this dragon. It depends how fast they can get back out onto the map, but Chrisberg's not even touching it, so they're going to get the Drake and the Baron as well. And getting those 2 so quickly means that they can move and draw their attention to the map so quickly. Should be able to get this Drake and then start taking turrets within about 10-20 seconds of one another.
So this will be the sole point here for Tex as he will secure it, and for the rest of Verdant, of course, as well. Looking at the items, 4 items on Chrisberg, yes, but that has almost been tied up by Kevo, who's of 3.5. There is now a Medjai Soul Stealer as well on Erol, 3.5 items on Nille. It just feels too hard now for Vanir, even when you mentioned the side of Lingui, getting a good flank, getting a good initial engage. It just wasn't really enough. And as Vanir go from really having a full field of ideas that they could pull out of their hat, they now are grasping for straws to really find a way back into the game.
And I know that this game we painted this picture of Erol and Kevo needing to be the big hyper carries, and they are doing that, make no mistake. But they are being enabled so much by this Taxa Vi pick that every time there's any sort of semblance of danger, Taxa is there, happy to help out.
Oh, Nille fenders himself in this 1v1. Does have to jump away as Touch is there to keep his AD carry safe, and a good shot down onto Chrisberg, even more gold, but it's at the cost of an inhibitor. Keeping the conversation on Taxa, you mentioned it. His facilitating picks are so important, and that's just not what he offers in the game, but outside of the game as well. He's such a facilitator for his team. He just needs to facilitate, take one more team fight, take the responsibility of finding the right engage, as Linguist Needlework has already gone out. The Cyclone comes through, Taxa forced to go golden. Lightning Crash available, nice bubble on Taxa. Leaves the carries all alone, no Nille for 25 seconds, as they will continue the chase. Bloxy coming from the side, Luca has popped the Ghost, but the Sumis, they jump over the wall, enough to get Verdant up.
So they lose 2, but they do get a bot lane inhibitor. That gives a large window of time for Verdant to be able to play in the top side of Summoner's Rift. Fortunately for Vanir, I think that that timer is long or short enough that it will synchronize quite nicely with when the Baron respawns. There might be 1 or 2 waves of super minions that spawn in that bot lane whilst the Baron is alive, but they took it at around the same window where that inhibitor plus Baron combo are probably going to respawn at 1. Difficult game for Vanir from here. We mentioned if we got to this point, we do heavily favour Verdant. We've got parity really across our AD carries. 4 items for the Lucian. It's still technically 3 for Kevo, but he's got that stopwatch, and the Tiamat functions, with its passive at least, as that full item does anyway. And I do think that now Erol as well has got that Rylai's Crystal Scepter. We judged and talked about how much movement speed was going to be a factor for Vanir. Luca's build indicating that as much. Rylai's being finished for the Cassio shows you quite how difficult it's going to be for Errol to just die as a whole. He's got 4,000 HP because he's gone for this Rod plus Seraph's build, and now with a Rylai's as well. He's got so much HP that trying to take down the Cassio between all of the HP and the sustain from the Twin Fangs is just nigh on impossible. And then you have Yuumi, just in case that wasn't enough.
Just in case everything wasn't enough, I should say. You've still got the Zooms. Luckily, though, that won't be for long as the patch will come through next week, hopefully, or the week after that. So the human priority will go down. But for the game, it is as strong as ever. As Lingui will continue to try and scale up in this game. Chrisberg is getting close to full build, so everyone is starting to slowly but surely reach the point where they're almost at the maximum strength. And then, as you said earlier, it's just about who is outscaled, and very often you would take a Sari Cassiopeia against a Galio and Illusion. I mean, I know what I would take 40 minutes into the game every single time. And I will say, there might be a chance for Chrisberg to find the fight.
It's just not even close how much damage these are going to do. And, you know, Galio is so cooldown reliant as well. That's why he doesn't particularly do too well as the short range. Lucian is, again, just a bit too short range to be able to function so well. If you dash in and get caught out, you're just dead. And even though you can get that cooldown up very quickly, it's so difficult to play late game fights.
A little taunt on Nille, but sadly a taunt on Nille means absolutely nothing. And as long as he hasn't popped the all out, he's very, very tanky as Chrisberg. Now goes forward, calling pop. Gale Force still available though. Needlework also used 2 massive cooldowns, 3 with a tidal wave. Without really finding anything, a bit of damage onto Nille, but nothing really to write home about. Baron though in 50 seconds, Soul in 30.
Now, I get to see what Verdant are going to prioritize. This Hextech Soul would be very useful for them, and I think that when you've got so much HP as well, that Hextech Soul does increase in value. When you've got that 50% threshold and you have, you know, more health to make the most of it, got to realize that that Hextech Soul isn't necessarily, you know, the worst thing that you could have to come by. But with the Baron spawning about 15 seconds afterwards, can't lay all of your eggs on that bot side basket without leaving a window open for Vanir.
Oh, Chrisberg dashing forward yet again, though. It's onto Nille, who takes quite a while to take down Chrisberg, trying to hit onto the backline, but he's simply unable to. Lingui, though, has found the flank onto Errol. He's down to half. But look at Kevo, the lightning crash is just stacking up, and he's taking everyone down. He's taking names as he looks to push forward. Chrisberg unable to deal the damage that's needed to take anyone down. And now it's Kevo who flashes forward onto Lingui to take him down. It's the soul for Verdant. And Vanir tries to hold on.
We asked what they valued Duckling. It's the Drake, it's the fight. It doesn't matter what they value. Anything they go for, they can take. They have outscaled Vanir now. And even though Lingui found access to it all, he had so much HP, the lifeline as well from the Seraphs, the rebuilt Seraphs, the reworked item. All too much. We got to see Lingui get flashed on as well at the end. A mid inhibitor does stay firm, but that Baron is going to go down as well. And when you've got the Soul at your back as well, this game is looking very difficult for Vanir. No steals this time for Taxa, but he should just be able to claim this one easily.
I mean, he's already made the one steal that was necessary. The goal lead might be slight, but it's enough to really feel when the team fights happen. What really surprised me in that fight was Chrisberg. He dashed forward a couple of times to hit on the important carries, but they're just so tanky. They are so goddamn tanky that he got the auto attacks on Errol, auto attacks on Kevo, but it just didn't matter because they have so much HP. And he's, on the other hand, squishy as anything, so he just melts like paper as soon as he really steps up to any of them.
This should just be the final charge for Verdant. They've got Soul, they've got Baron. There are 2 exposed inhibitors. They don't need to play with this top wave. I think that it is pushing in towards them as well. So if they take a little bit too much time here, they've got a good enough window to play toward that top side as well. But with the champions they've got and the lead that they have, they can probably brute force this as a 5 versus 5. Looks like they're going to play with a bit more respect. They do need to do their due diligence, make sure that Lingui and Floxy aren't getting god tier flanks on them to find that 1% team fight, because that's what it is right now. Vanir, they are such a compositional deficit that they need the godliest angle for flanks in order to win a fight.
Oh, Lingui on the flank yet again. Maybe this time something different will happen as Taxa actually takes a good amount of damage, but it's only Taxa. He's a tank. We need to hit onto the carries, guys, if Vanir wants any chance to turn this around. But it's just not really possible. as they continue walking forward, continue owning the whole map, the whole base of Vanir, as they get pushed further and further into their base.
Both inhibitors down, and now once again, when you've got this much control over the map, the rest of the game becomes fairly fundamental for you to play out. You can see they're going to reset, make sure that they're not giving any window for Vanir to get back into this game. Go back up to the top side and try and secure that third and final inhibitor. They can use the waves in mid lane, the super minions in bot lane as well, to act as extra members that are going to demand attention from Vanir. And when those members of Vanir go to answer the waves, they can force a fight. Nilla, Taxa, they've got enough HP, enough durability between the two of them to tank up a turret for long enough for Irol and Kevo to deal the damage.
I just have one very blunt question, Rude. Is there in any way enough damage on Vanir that they can actually win a team fight?
It's so difficult. I honestly don't know. They've got to go through Hextech, Chemtech Soul as well.
Yeah, let's see them try though, as Irol does get forced into the GA, but Kevo is still full HP. Irol though getting lower and lower. He might actually get taken down. He is, but Kevo is still full HP with the lightning crash. But actually everyone on Vanir is going golden and buying time. No one is there until Luca finally falls. It's Pluxy in the front line. It's a 1-for-1 jungle for mid, but it's still Verdant pushing forward.
And they've got the Baron at their backs as well. Waves in mid, waves in bot. They're going to crash soon. Verdant, this is a waiting game. If they just stick around and wait for those super juiced up waves to crash, they'd be okay. But fortunately, Vanir, they took the initiative. They knew they had to find a fight before those big super minions hit their base. They've done exactly that, and now they're going to get another reprieve. Another great engage, honestly, coming through from Ploxy. They're playing at such a disadvantage from their composition that the fact that they get a 1-for-1 out of this is testament to how well Vanir have been playing. But Verdant, stalwart in their 5-man, stood together, stood strong, and they were able to push forward and take more from that fight.
This game, man, Rude, it's been a long one, 42 minutes, and it's just mainly eyes on the AD carries at this point. Irol has a lot to offer as well, and Chris Berg, he tries as hard as his team continues to scale towards full build. Linkwe starting to do more damage, Luca starting to add a bit of damage as well. Let's be completely fair, but my eyes, Rude, and what I think we should be building towards now for the next 1 minute is either a fight before that or the Elder Drake, because a flip around Elder could change the whole game.
It really can, and that's when your smites do become so important. Chris Berg has actually opted into the Cassiopeia passive this game, sold his boots to go for 6 full items. Doesn't need those Lucidity boots anymore. He's going to be relying on the damage that these are providing.
Yeah, very good damage onto Tax, as you say that. Already going into the GA. Linkwe still has the needlework available. Taunted, not as soon as he comes up, but still gets taken down. Crispback down to half on the backline though, and he jumps away. Eyes on Kevo in the front line, and he does not care. No one can touch this man as he finds a double kill. He can look for more. It's not a triple. It's secured by Nila, as they will run down the rest of Vanir, right down mid lane, and look for the game.
And once again, it's Taxa recognizing how to win games of League of Legends, throws his life away so that Kevo and Irol have the freest time in the world. Nile as well, causing all sorts of disruption, takes Chris Berg to the Nether Realm on the other side of the wall. Now Linkwe, the last carry left for Vanir, accompanied by Touch. They're waiting for a wave here, Verdant, and they've got 25 seconds before any respawns come through. This should just be the game, unless Linkwe can pull out a miracle.
See what happens. The needlework is available. It's good damage, but you're throwing it on the wave, and he's grounded inside the hallowed mist. The base is open. It took 44 minutes, but Verdant will stay.